Good evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. It is late Sunday night. I don't normally go to the movies on Sunday. Well, that's not true. During football season, I don't tend to go to the movies on Sunday because I am an avid football enjoyer. So, today, football season's over. Super Bowl was last week. This week, we are in the lull where it's like we can watch like the Genesis Cup, or you can watch like college basketball in the lead-in. And this week they did the screenings of the best shorts. So yesterday, if you go onto the feed, you can listen to the best animated shorts ranking, where I talked a little bit about how I don't think the Academy or anyone listened to the statement by Lord and Miller after the Oscars last year. And then also we have, the actual ranking. This one, And here's the thing. I think that it's a lot less... Like, there was a lot more thought that went into the ranking for this than the animated. The animated was a lot closer. Was a lot more clear-cut. This one was a lot closer between them. The number one was far and away the number one. The rest of them were kind of, I guess, depending on my mood, could possibly change. And I think there's a clear one that's going to end up winning. And I'll let you know which one that is, but it's not my number one, or my number two for that matter. So let's just get into the rankings. Number 5 is An Irish Goodbye, which is this really heartwarming story about this guy with Down syndrome and his brother who are mourning the loss of their mother. And the priest who oversaw the funeral comes to them and is like, hey, we have a list of all the things your mother wanted to do before she died. It'd be, maybe it's something you might want, but it doesn't do much good now because she's dead, and, so the brother with Down syndrome is like, yeah, he starts going through the list, and him and his brother start going through the list, and the two are estranged over the years, and they start to come back together, and it's a really nice and heartwarming story about that, and I think that it's pretty well executed. I think that the short time frame for this harms the movie. And I think that's kind of the biggest issue. Like, this is the kind of thing, and this is the biggest, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would have rather they had the full feature-length opportunity to flesh the story out a little bit clearer and have it be a little bit stronger in that regard. Because I think everything happens over too short a period for it to really hit home the way it could. And for me, that's a little bit of a downside. I'm not particularly fond of, when we have that situation where it's like, well, it could have been, like, the only issue we have with the movie is that it's not, it could have been longer. Had it been longer, it would have been a little bit more concise. Number 4, I got the list off of the internet, which translated all the names, so all these movies do have names in their native language, and that's the thing is, none of the movies are American, they're all foreign. The only one that's in English is the one I just talked about, An Irish Goodbye, because that's from Ireland. Everything else is in other languages. And considering I got the list off of the internet, and then I'm now ranking them after seeing them, some of the titles have been translated. So the pupils is what it is. It's le pupil. I'm not going to pronounce it. It's Italian. This one, Again, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I have a bias a lot of times against movies in this category that have these massive productions behind them, and it's just the fact that, look, you have money, you can do that. This is the one I think is most likely to win. It's a Disney Plus creation. It is if you want to watch this short, you can go on Disney Plus right now and check it out. It's about these little girls who live in a convent because they're all orphans of war, and they have to do things around Christmas to help get donations for the for the church, and it's this big morality story about, like, am I good, am I bad, how does that interact? The girls are endearing. And stylistically, it makes some great choices. It's just some of the choices don't quite gel. Like, there are some frame rate like changes that they do in it that I'm like, that's an odd decision. I'm not entirely sure what I would like to hear the thought process behind why that happened and why they went with like the comedic like Monty Python kind of like speeding up the video to make them look like they're running faster. Like there are things like that I'm like, I'm not entirely sure what tone this is going for, and that was my only issue with it. It's a little tonally all over the place. But besides that, it's a cute little story. It's very entertaining, and I think the girls are very entertaining in that one too. And it's like that's the thing. And when you have child actors, you run the risk of it being kind of silly. I think that the girls do kind of nail their role very well, and I think that is a benefit to it. So you can check that one out. Number 3 was Night Ride, I think it's called. Let me just double check my paper. Night Ride, yes. This is a Norwegian movie, which I'm going to be honest, and this might be racist. If someone took their hand and slammed it down on the keyboard and then showed me the result and said, that's a Norwegian word, I would believe them. Because I'm looking at these credits and I'm like, are we sure these are actual words and they didn't just slam their face into the keyboard and just like, yeah, fuck it, good enough. Anyway, it's about this woman who is trying to get home. She gets on, the tram pulls up, guy gets off, it's like a half-hour layover, and so she steals the tram and goes off and starts being the tram operator. They take on this transgender woman who gets harassed by some guys, and it's the story of her dealing with that harassment on this tram that she is now commandeered. It is an interesting story. The reason it's not higher is it may be an issue. I would be curious to see how how a person from Norway watches this, or someone who understands the language, because I don't, and there are instances where because we're not seeing it, it's just kind of noise and we can't understand it. They're not subtitled, where it's like these two guys who are harassing this transgender woman. We're not privy to the information, and it had to have been a stylistic choice to have that. That just doesn't work, because I would like to know what's being said to help me decide what's going on a little bit better, because after a certain point they obviously cross a line with this woman for the main character, but I don't think that at any point during it we're given information about, like, we don't know what was said. That was like, this is the lie that she's like, no, you have crossed the line. We don't know what that is, and I think that's again detriment to the movie. But it's interesting, and it's well, and like none of these are poorly made. None of them are not good. It's just, for me, some of them work a little bit more than others, and these next two really work for me. Number 2 is Evalu, which came from Denmark. It's a story of this little girl who goes off in search of her sister who goes missing. It is such a sad story, so well told, and this has the best cinematography of any of the shorts in this category. If it was purely based on that, this would be the winner. But number 1, when we get to number 1, we'll get to why. And like, this one has some amazing cinematography, some amazing landscape shots, and all of that so well executed that it makes it an interesting visual feast while you're watching the rapid unfolding of this story, this just terrible, tragic, and just fucked up story. And it's like, it's just, everything about it kind of works very well, and I think that it's the fact that a story that's that sad can put you through the emotions of figuring out what happened is very well done. The little girl in the lead is great, and she does a great job of not making this feel like it's just a cheap way to do it by having it be the story of this family, what happens. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who wants to go out and watch it, but if anyone, it's everything that happens in this short is so tragic and it's so well done, and it's just even the little things like the grandmother's the grandmother making the the grandmother making the dress for Evalu, and then it needed to be taken in for the younger sister. It's just everything about it's just so sad, and it's just so well executed. And it's not the sad that makes it number 2, and I want to make that very clear, because I had this conversation with someone the other day at work where it's like, I said that, oh my god, it's just so depressing about an episode of The Last of Us. And he goes, oh, so you didn't like it? And I'm like, oh, no. That is a very different thing. I can enjoy something that's depressing for the emotions it elicits, and that's not necessarily a detriment to what I'm watching. What I mean when I say it's depressing is that it is trying to elicit an emotion from you, and it succeeds in that. And that one does. And the reason why... And one more thing about Evalu before we change the subject. If you listen to me talk about Stony Brook Film Festival, if you heard me talk about Long Island Film Festival, Long Island International Film Expo, if you heard me talk about... what was the other one that I covered? New York City Indie Film. If you've heard any of those episodes, you've heard me talk about the fact that I cannot stand a gratuitous drone shot. A lot of short films will use them, and a lot of documentary shorts, a lot of narrative shorts will use a drone shot to try and increase production value. And after a certain point, if it's not well executed or well placed in it, it's just all you're telling me is you had additional money in the budget to rent a drone and get some B-roll with it. That's all you're telling me. This one fits it in very well and uses it to great effect. Just to create the isolation and the loneliness and all of that. This one is a perfect example. If you are an independent filmmaker, if you are thinking of making a short film, watch Evalu before you rent a drone. Because if you're not going to do that, don't rent a drone. Because if you rent a drone, it just comes off as a cheap ploy to make your movie look more expensive. And a lot of times it's very transparent when that happens. Anyway, moving on. Because there was a period where I was like, I've seen like 7 or 8 short films and every single fucking one of them has a drone shot and I don't need it. And then this is the first one that leads off and you get that drone shot and I'm like, fuck me with these fucking drones. But no, this one does it very well. So again, keep that in mind if you're going to rent a drone. Number 1 is The Red Suitcase, and let me tell you why. The Red Suitcase is the story of this Iranian girl who comes to Luxembourg as part of an arranged marriage. Her father sent her to Luxembourg. She's 16 years old, sent her to Luxembourg as part of an arranged marriage. And this is a relatively short one. I think it's under 15 minutes. And it's this girl in the Luxembourg airport trying to escape the guy who she's been given to. And it is terrifying. It is the most anxious I've ever been in a movie that's not just a horror movie. Like, I've never felt anything so tense, so just like, get the fuck out of, I wanted to scream, just go. Like, don't just stand there, go. Like, everything about it is so well done, and I think that the one of the things that it does very well is it plays on the expectation where it's like, she gets off and she goes to, she gets text from her dad and it's like, do what you need to do or whatever it is, keep the suitcase close and all of that. And we see her afraid, and, because she's wearing the hijab, and then you also have security immediately come to her, it plays with the expectation of what this is going to be, and it plays with your prejudices, and then that works well, and then it transitions totally to, oh, this girl's a victim. She's in a very fucked up situation. She needs help. And just how everyone kind of turns a blind eye to the situation. It's just like, this girl is visibly incredibly anxious. Will someone help this fucking girl? Like, everything about this one works so well. This is the best one, hands down, by a mile. I'm watching this and I'm like, holy shit. I got the same feeling watching this as I did watching After Sun, and for a similar reason. Like, After Sun, when I saw that, I said that I've never seen a filmmaker so expertly distill the feeling of nostalgia into a movie and present nostalgia to me in a way that feels real. This one is the same thing with just a constant anxiety attack for about 10 minutes, where it's just like you feel for this girl the entire way through this. It's everything about this short is so well executed and so well done. If there's any one of these shorts that you go and watch just on your own, I mean, if you go to Shorts TV, you can watch them all. But there's got to be a way to watch this elsewhere. The Red Suitcase is definitely one you want to check out. It is a masterclass in building tension and just letting tension hang and letting the fear of the situation just build and build and build, and it's just everything about it works so well. It is hands down the best, one that they do. That was in this crop this year. But that's it. We're not going to do documentaries, not because I don't like documentaries, but because they're not doing this series for documentaries, and I don't want to, make a pick on documentary short without without seeing them all. I'm going to have to when I do my Oscar picks. But I like to see them all before I blindly just pick one. I think 2 of them are on Netflix. I think I may go and watch those at some point. But I got a pretty packed week ahead of me. The Last of Us tonight. We got, what else do we got? We got Akira on Tuesday on 30-minute reviews. We have Wednesday. I got to come up with something to do because Josie was busy this week. So I got to come up with something to do for exploring hyperspace lanes. But it'll be up there. It won't be the Bad Batch. It'll be something different. Maybe just talking about the news about what we're getting at Star Wars Celebration this year. And then this week we also have Emily, the new movie about Emily Bronte. I think it's like a loose biopic. And then there's also Cocaine Bear this week. And I feel like there's another thing. I feel like there was something else on this list that I needed to address coming out this week. I forgot what it was. It'll be up on the calendar. I'm going to update the site later today with the new calendar and the calendar for March. But we'll wrap up there for today. So, until then, have a great rest of your week.